10.99 would be 10.99%.
Yeah, so prime rate, in any credit card offer, they'll always mention prime rate. Sometimes the prime rate's relevant to your credit card, sometimes it's not. Like some credit cards will say you have a fixed rate, it's 10.9%. Others will say it's like the prime rate plus 4%. And so here it says, that's note 2. If you look at the bottom, it says prime rate is a base interest rate that banks charge their commercial customers. So somehow based on the Federal Reserve and some banking commission, the banks get together and they say this is what the prime rate is today. I think the Federal Reserve is where you can find that information about what the current prime rate is. And so a lot of investments and credit cards are based on prime rate, whatever it happens to be at the time. Yeah, so all the prime rate is, it's a common base rate that banks use. Yeah, so for example, this particular deal here, your rate's going to be somewhere between 10.99 and 23.99, and it's going to depend on what the prime rate is. And usually what they'll do is sometimes, again, it'll be a fixed rate based on the prime at the time you got it. So depending on your credit worthiness, they might say, okay, you are prime plus 5%. Other times it's going to vary every month. So if the prime goes up, you have to pay more interest. If the prime goes down, you get to pay less interest, which is, there's pros and cons to that. Okay, hey Daisy.
Hello.
Okay, so let's see. Questions on 5 and 6, is that what you said there? Okay. So for 5, yes, you have to make a spreadsheet of this. Yeah, and that we went over that yesterday. That was in that, and I put the video for that, making that spreadsheet right here. Okay, so I'll demo that again today. And then we're also going to build another spreadsheet like the one I built to talk about, I use Gary and Ruby as the example we'll do that one again today. Yeah. And I think I mentioned yesterday that will be on the test tomorrow. So you're going to build that spreadsheet yet again tomorrow, right? So the whole point is just to get better at it. So don't stress out about the test tomorrow. There's not going to be any surprises. All right, so let's see, where was I? I was here. Okay, so number 5, part A, B, both. Okay, so let's see. Jeff pays the highest interest rate for purchases. For a cash advance, he would pay, let's see, 5 cents more for each dollar he charges on his credit card. So they want us to say, is this a reasonable statement for Jeff? So let's see. So we're going to look back at what this says. So again, the regular APR is going to be somewhere in this range, depending on your credit worthiness. And then cash advances, it says it's 28.99%. So on other stuff, Jeff's going to pay 23.99. Okay. So the question is, well, what's the difference between 23.99 and 28.99%? And if we subtract them, we get what? 5%. And 5% is 5 out of 100, which is 5 cents for every dollar more. So I think that is a reasonable statement, right? So let me just write that down. Just do the math. And for the test tomorrow and in the worksheets, anytime you do a calculation on your calculator, write down what you typed into the calculator, right? So if you typed 5% times 100, write down 5% times 100, and then the answer. Just to be clear, in case you accidentally pushed the wrong button. Okay, so normally for Jeff, he's going to pay 23.99% on his regular purchases. For a cash advance, and this is pretty typical, usually for a cash advance they charge you more, it's 28.99%. And so the statement in 5A says, how much more does he pay for cash advances, basically. So if we subtract these two, 28.99% minus the 23.99%, then we get a difference of exactly 5%. And remember, the percent symbol means out of 100, so that's 5 out of 100. 5 under 100 is 0.05. So that means he's going to pay an additional 5 cents on every dollar. Yeah, so I think that is a reasonable statement there. You guys with me, or am I talking crazy? You with me? I thought you nodded that I'm talking crazy. Okay. So warning, I'm not feeling well. I had to take some Benadryl, so that could have some effect on my ability to do math. Is there a warning on Benadryl that says you should not necessarily drive when you're on it? Yes. There is one. Okay.
Yeah. Unless you have the non-stressing.
Okay. Shoot, I didn't read the package. Maybe I should walk home. Oh, I have to walk home. My wife drove me. Okay, never mind. Sorry, side note, tangent. All right, let's get back to math. All right, so next, Lewis pays the lowest interest rate for purchases. If she purchased a $400 TV using a cash advance, she would pay about 2.5 times as much interest as she would if she used the credit card as a regular purchase. So I gotta then figure out, what did she pay in interest at the lowest interest rate? What would she pay in interest at the cash advance interest rate, and just see how different they are. So let's check that out. So new page for Lois here. There's new page right there. Oh, no, there's an E on there. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've got $400 at the cash advance level, which would be, I have to multiply by, was it 28.99%? So 0.2899. And then we got to get a number for that. Calculator. 400 times 0.2899, $115.96. Am I right? Anyone else get that? 115.96. Check. Yeah, 115.96. Okay, is that a reasonable answer? So 28%, that's more than 25%. A quarter of 400 would be 100. So yeah, it's more than 100. It seems like it's in the ballpark to me. So it's always a good idea to do a little estimate. If she had not used a cash advance, then she would have had $400 times, what was the low one, 10.99? So that would be whoa, crazy line, 0.1099. That. $1.99. So I get that she would have paid $43.96 in interest. Okay. So the question is how much bigger is the cash advance than the regular one, right? So this is the cash advance, and this is the regular charge. So what are we going to do to figure that out mathematically? Yeah, we can multiply the lower number by 2.5, see if it matches. Okay, so that's one routine. Let's give it a shot. So go back to my calculator, times 2.5, and I get 109. That's pretty darn close to 2.5, so the statement seems reasonable, doesn't it? The other way I could check it is by dividing the two numbers. How many times does the 43 go into the 115? So let's clear that. So 115.96 was the big number. I want to know how many times the 43.96 goes into that. And 2.6 times greater. Okay, so yeah, I think that's a reasonable statement. Let me read it again just to double check. Okay, if she purchased a $400 TV using a cash advance, she would have paid about 2.5 times as much interest. 2.5 times as much, yeah. Yeah, because if you take 2.5, multiply it by the 43, you get about, almost 115, 109. Okay, I think it's reasonable. So I had to do a lot of work just to figure out if it was reasonable. Question. Are both of these what we call quantitative statements, statement A and statement B? Are statement A and statement B quantitative statements? Do they have quantities related to reality listed in them? Yep, they totally are. Are they clear quantitative statements? I think A is simple and relatively clear. I did have to do a subtraction to double check. In B, they don't mention how much interest she paid, so they're not clear because I had to do a whole lot of calculation. Yeah. So although they're both accurate, I would say A is reasonably clear, B is not so clear. What they should have told me is how much she paid in interest each time, then it would have been very clear. So if like this was a problem on the test, the way you could make this statement better was by saying she would have paid $43 in interest if she just bought it with the card. She pays $115 in interest if she gets a cash advance. And then that's totally clear because we have all the information in that regard. All right, shall we rebuild this spreadsheet? Let's do it. And so the key here for this spreadsheet is this one cell B7, where we have to type this formula in, okay? And this is definitely something you need to do for this project. If you look back at the description, and I mistyped that question, let's fix that quick. It's just question 6 for that one. I read that wrong. Credit crunch question 6, that's a toe teaser. All right, save. Okay. So let's bring up my Google Drive. And you can use any spreadsheet you want. You don't have to use Google Sheets. You can use Excel, or if you have a Mac, use Numbers. Sheets. And if you do use Google Sheets or Excel, it's always a good idea to name the file because you're going to have to share it with me. I'm going to call it Credit Crunch. Okay, so we have monthly expenses or monthly charges, something like that. And those charges were gas, groceries, restaurant, movie. Gas, groceries, oops. And then we want to find the interest amounts. And Daisy, I bet that looks awfully tiny on your screen. Blow that sucker up. Sorry about that. Okay. And Dana, could you read me those monthly charges, please?
Mm-hmm. Gas is $56.08.
Okay.
Groceries is $36.72. Restaurant is $12.83.
Okay. So usually I don't type the $sign and then I tell the computer to format them. So $sign format. Okay. For the interest amount, remember the kind of interest we're doing here is simple interest. And the formula for simple interest is I as interest equals, usually they use P, you could call it B for balance. Oh, come on, pen. Come back here. There you go. R times T, right? So I need to find my balance, I need to find my rate, and I need to find my time. And the rate and time have to have the same time unit, right? So same time period. So if R is a yearly rate, time is in years. If R is a monthly rate, time is in months. If R is a daily rate, time is in days, and so on. So always double check that. Okay, so for us, I believe this guy has the maximum interest rate. So that's the 23.99%. And I can either, in a spreadsheet these days, type it at 23.99% or type it as 0.2399. Okay, so you can go either way. This is just a month, so right away I'm going to compensate by dividing by 12. And so that's going to give me its monthly rate. Now I'm going to hit equals just now to check it. So here it's saying that's about 2%, okay, which sounds about right. All right, I'm gonna go back in and edit the formula. Then I wanna take that rate and I wanna multiply by the balance. Okay, so what I have right now for my notes is I'm kind of doing it backwards, but I just calculated the rate and time thing. Okay, I took the yearly rate, I made it into a monthly rate. Now here, if time is in months, that's only 1 month. Should I bother multiplying by 1? I don't need to. So then I just need to get my balance in there. Now my balance is all these guys added up, so I got to put a parentheses to say, first, take each of these things and add them up. And it doesn't matter what order you add them, as long as they get added up all together. So this formula says, calculate the monthly rate, and then find the sum of all this stuff, and then multiply them together to get it. So this in parentheses is my balance. This is my rate times time right there. And I hit enter, and I should get the 243 that we saw in class yesterday. Notice that formula looks a little bit different than the one the book shows, or the worksheet. Oops. Where the heck is it? Right here. I do have I wrote it as 23.99% instead of 0.2399. You can go either way, be careful. They put a parentheses around that whole thing. I didn't, but I still got the right answer. So whenever you have doubts about parentheses, throw them in to be safe. Okay, I've done this calculation before and I realized I didn't need them. And so I didn't type them. But generally, if somebody says, hey, this is the formula you should use the formula they said. Did anyone try doing that yesterday? Nobody was adventurous? Come on. All right. Give it a try today, please. Okay, other questions on the worksheet. So that was we didn't answer the question though. Let's see. Which of the following statements best explains what the expression means in terms of the context? Anybody have opinion on which one was best? 3 was best. Let's see. Brian found the periodic rate by dividing the APR by 12 months. And he added up the individual charges to get the total amount charged to the credit card, and he multiplied the periodic rate by the total charges. Yeah, that's pretty darn complete there. Good job. All right.
I have a question on the next question.
Number 7?
7,
Yeah.
Right? 2 other formulas that Brian could have used to calculate his interest charge.
Yeah. So due to the way the kind of the order of operation flows, there are a bunch of other ways to do this. So the book gave us way number 1. Let's call that way number 0 because we're going to come up with ways 1 and 2 in a minute. And that was to take the periodic rate or the annual rate, the 23.99, divide it by 12, and then multiply that by that, was it B2 through B5, I think? Does anybody remember the twist I showed on this part right here in yesterday's class? I showed another way a spreadsheet could do it. What's that? No, it's not a drag down, but that's part of it. There's something I had to do before that.
Was it the sum?
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Daisy. In a spreadsheet, instead of going this plus this, I mean, what if there were 100 items? Wouldn't it be a waste of time going click plus, click plus, click plus? So instead, what you do is you use the sum formula, SUM, and that's when you highlight the stuff you want to add up. So I'm just going to show you, and then I'll write it down. So in the spreadsheet, so let's go underneath interest amount again. So I'm going to start off the same way I did before. I'm going to go equals, I'm going to take that 0.2399 over 12, and then I'm going to go times, but I'm going to type SUM. And the computer says, oh, do you want to sum a series of numbers or cells? I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. So I can just click on it, and it says, okay, and it gives me a parenthesis. So then I just go up here, and I highlight all the numbers I want to add. Did I get them all yet? And it says B2 colon B5. The colon means start here and do everything up to B5. So it fills in the whole range. And then I just close the parentheses and hit enter, and I ought to get exactly the same answer. So that would be another way to do it with spreadsheets. So way number 1 for an alternate would be to you still have to calculate that interest, 2399 over 12. But then I would multiply by the sum of the numbers from B2 colon B5. And you could type that just like it, but for me, I like pointing and clicking because sometimes I look and I get it wrong when I look. Or I type a semicolon instead of a colon on the keyboard, just stupid things like that screw me up. So whenever possible, I could do the point and click method. But I had to know that the sum formula exists to do that. And this will come up again in class this quarter. Okay, other ways to do it. So I showed a slightly different way to do it. Instead of typing 0.2399 on a spreadsheet, you can actually just type 23.99 as long as you throw the percent in there. Then the computer, when it sees that, knows percent means divide by 100, and it does this for us. So that would be another way to do it. And then you could either have this come next or the sum, either way. And of these three different formulas, so far, I think the best formula is this number 1. I think using the sum feature in the spreadsheet is the best way to do it for a few different reasons. Anybody want a third way? Tristan, I'm getting a please don't vibe from you. You're right there. Don't do it. Okay. Do it? No. Okay. Tristan says no. All right. So that's enough ways on that one.
What about 8?
Okay. 8. Write a statement about one of these formulas that explains the mathematical expression in its context. So if I like number 1 best, I would say use the spreadsheet sum function. That's a great sentence right there. Yeah, it's a sentence. It's got a subject, verb, and noun. Object.
More like a drawn out description.
No, just like why mathematically should we use this? And it's a sum. I mean, it's that simple. And boom, we are done with this sucker. All right, so we are going to go over some questions on the practice exam. And the online one you have to do, the one called Practice Exam 1. So if you haven't started that yet, you've got to get that done today. So we'll go over a few of these questions. Some are trickier than others. And then I posted this optional printable exam here. This is what your exam tomorrow is going to look like with slightly different numbers. And you should notice it looks pretty darn like the practice exam. Same questions, I just tweak things a little bit. Where's that right here? The one addition is the problem I went over the other day in class, which was comparing two different people's interest rates and then calculating some amounts due for interest based on that. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one today, and then we'll back up and do some of the problems on the practice test. So
will we be in that room over there?
Yeah, because I want people to have access to a computer. So Daisy, you'll be able to take it at the testing center in Hermiston where they have computers. And when I send them a note about the test, I'll say Daisy has to use a computer. And you guys here will go in the other room with me. And if you have your own computer, cool, bring it. If you don't have your own computer, then I'll hook you up on one of the computers here. Another important thing, I fell behind on my grading, and I apologize. I owe you guys some worksheets back. I will give you those worksheets tomorrow because you can use your worksheets during the test. You can have those as notes, okay? So I'll have those graded and back to you tomorrow so you can have them for the test. And Daisy, I think I have one more of yours to grade, although I might have just graded it. So take a look at the grade book to see, and if there's something wrong, email me if I missed something.
Okay.
But I will catch up on that. So for example, if you haven't given me 1.8 or 1.9 yet, then I will get those done tonight and get them back to everybody tomorrow. So you can have those on the test. And when I send the note to the Hermiston Testing Center, I'll let them know that not only can you use a computer, but you can have access to those files, those sheets. Okay, so I'm gonna set up this spreadsheet again. And I'm not gonna, yeah, it'll only take a minute. I'll just do the whole thing. It's pretty straightforward. But this is something you definitely want to practice on your own. And I can share my sheet with you. Things that you can't do when you're taking the test tomorrow. I'm going to have you submit some things online. So if you try to do that and open up like a homework assignment or a prep assignment, that'll mess things up and you'll lose stuff on the computer. So you couldn't do that. And then I expect you not to go to Google and search, how do I do this? Okay, so that wouldn't be cool either. Is that it? Yeah. So you can have a calculator, you can have a spreadsheet, you can have all of your worksheets. The conversion sheet, yeah, so that's on one of your worksheets.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you have everything you need is on there. I didn't ask any question that's going to require a conversion factor that's not already listed. No. Okay, so new sheet. Zoom out just a touch for a minute. So new spreadsheets. Call it comparing interest rates. Okay, so we have two different people. Who shall they be today? How about Robert and Matt? Oops. Okay, and let's say Robert and Matt both have reasonable credit, but not the same, and so they're not going to get the same amount. So we're going to give Robert an 8.59 percentage rate. And we'll give Matt a 12.99 percentage rate. So that's what's called the APR, right? And just a reminder, APR is what we do for any yearly calculations. Other things that are going to be good to find is an MPR, which stands for what, anybody? Monthly rate. Yeah, so I'm just going to make a note that MPR means monthly. And a DPR, daily percentage rate. And that's daily. And all of these rates have a common name. Anybody remember from yesterday or the worksheet what the common name for all those rates are? Yeah, they're all periodic rates. Yeah. Type that in here, it doesn't fit anywhere well. Bottom line is once we know the APR, we can easily calculate the other ones. So for example, for Robert, all we're going to do is type equals, click on his rate, divide by 12. We now know his monthly rate. Format that as percentage. Equals, click on the APR, then divide by 365. Do banks have to use 365? Anybody remember?
No.
No, what other numbers can they use?
360.
Yeah, 360, 361, 362, 363. Typically, they use either 360 or 365. 365 tends to be the more common number. Okay, so we got about 0.02% per day here. We've got about 0.75% per day there. Now, since the formulas for Matt are really the same darn formulas, agreed, I could either retype them or I could just highlight those and then fill them over with that magic button there. And again, the way that works is first you have to highlight the thing and let go of the mouse. and then you point and click on that bottom one. So it's always a two-step process. Highlight the stuff you want to copy, then go to that magic little button there and drag it wherever you need it, up, down, left, right, wherever. So just double checking, Matt has a higher APR, so he should have higher monthly rates and daily rates. Okay, so that seems reasonable. Here it looks like the daily rate is twice as much. Shouldn't exactly be twice as much, it's just that because of rounding it looks that way. Okay, so it could be the 2 is slightly rounded down and the 4 is slightly rounded up, exaggerating the difference. Although the spreadsheet's only showing 2 decimal places, it has a whole bunch more stored. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. So let's look at some balances. Let's say, let's use the same balance, $1,000 for each. And then we're going to calculate some amounts. So I want to know, what is the yearly amount due? What is the monthly amount due? And what is the daily amount? And then for fun, did anybody notice I added a couple of other amounts on that chart? So I said, well, what about like October versus January or October versus February, I think it was. Let's see, where'd that go? Right there. February versus October. Okay. So what's the big difference between February and October? Number of days. How many days in February typically? 28, unless it's a leap year, and October has 31, right? So the bank, generally, they do an average daily balance, and they do a daily rate to go with that. And so even if you have the same amount in February on loan in February as October, you get charged more interest in October because there's more days in October. Okay, so they really do break it down by day, not just by month. So here, I'm just going to throw in the February one just to see the difference. February, that's such a weird word. All right, so how do I calculate the yearly amount? What do I do first? Equals, right? Sorry, silly question. Hopefully everyone knows that by now. I said equals, okay, then I do a multiplication, right? I just take my balance and I multiply by the appropriate rate. Which rate do I want? The APR. And yearly, that's just 1 year. Should I bother multiplying by 1? I could, but I'm not going to. All right, so there's $86. Now it's rounding to the nearest whole number because this was to the nearest whole number. I probably want to, expand that a little bit and show a couple of cents because it wasn't doing that. So think about how many decimals you want to be visible or should be visible. So to display that originally, it was only showing me whole numbers. And I'm thinking 8.95, that shouldn't be exactly 86, right? So I went up here and I pressed the increase decimal places button twice. And so that expands out. And I could keep hitting it and see more, but there's nothing more to see.
Does it get what you roughly did 1,000 times?
Yeah, oh, so that was the 1,000 times the APR because I'm doing the yearly amount. And then similarly for the monthly amount, I click on the 1,000 and then I click times and then the NPR. Now in algebra, no symbol means multiply. Has everyone remember seeing that somewhere before? On a spreadsheet, you got to tell it to multiply. Otherwise, it's like, it does something different. So for example, if I forget to say multiply there and I go and click on the NPR, it got rid of the balance and replaced it with the NPR. So it doesn't understand what I mean until I put times in there. So I click on that, times, click on that, enter, because it's 1 month. And then again, it's not giving me decimals. I can fix the whole lot of stuff by just clicking the $ after I highlight cells, and it'll make everything dollars and cents, because that was getting annoying. So this daily is just going to be equal the balance times the daily percentage rate, and enter. Okay, February is a little bit trickier. So I still owe $1,000. Now I have to pick a rate to use. Okay, what rate should I use, the NPR or the DPR? Monthly or daily? Yeah, daily, because February has a different number of days substantially than other months. Yeah, so I have to use the daily percentage rate, and then I have to multiply by how many days. And so then it's not a leap year, so I'm going to go, it's not a leap year, right? Yeah, this year's not a leap year. 28. And so I'm going to get a little less in February than your average month. Okay, does that seem reasonable? Cool thing here, once I get this column done, I just grab those formulas and fill them over, and I'm done with it. Okay. So I'll share this spreadsheet with everybody. You'll have to build a new one from scratch tomorrow on the test. So another thing you won't be able to use is any spreadsheets I share with you, those wouldn't be fair game on the test. That would be illegal. All right, let's share this and then we'll move on. Advanced, change, public, save, copy. All right, so I'm gonna stick that where?
We can use spreadsheets that we made ourselves. Is the way you work that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think any pre-made spreadsheets are going to be not. You have to start with a blank spreadsheet on this. You can't access pre-owned spreadsheets, and I'll write that on the test just to remind everybody. So let's see, I'll add that to this page. So the page where the printable exam is, I'm going to add the link to my spreadsheet. And so what I'd recommend is if you haven't already tried to do that last problem on the sample here, give it a try and then compare yours to mine and see if our formulas look similar. Okay, so my spreadsheet is linked there and it works. Okay. All right, next. How about, where is that other exam? I lost it somewhere. Ooh, not there. Not there. There you go. All right, practice exam board. Did anybody have a particular problem they wanted to go over? I know which ones I want to do. 12 and 13. Okay, that's a good one. And 13. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Okay. All right, blow this sucker up. All right, college and university campuses have become much more diverse. There has been an increased enrollment of students belonging to minority groups. In 2007, 32.2% of college students were minorities. Imagine that you took a random group of 500 college students in 2007. How many of these 500 college students would you expect to be minorities? So here, we want to know, what's 32% of 500? So we whip that out on a calculator and then see if it falls in one of these ranges here. We could approximate it. 32% is what, about a third, or you could say it's like 30, almost 30 for every 100 people. There's 500, so 3 times 5, that'd be like 150. Since that's 32, not 30, it's probably more than 150 is my guess. But I can multiply it out just to double check. So oops, was 32.2, is that right? 32.2 divided by 100 is my percentage. Ooh, one button. And then I want to multiply that by 500, and I get 161. So, where'd you go? There. Yeah, so more than 150 should be the right answer. Okay. That one seemed too easy. Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Okay, we'll do 14 because it's a little easier than we'll do 13. So Jared is helping his daughter's school assembly. Every student has to wear a decorative ribbon. The ribbons have to be 2/3 of a foot long. A local store donates 30 feet of ribbon, so how many ribbons can they make? So we want to know how many 2/3 are in 30. What operation is that mathematically? When we're looking for groups of something in something else.
Division.
Yeah, it's a division, yeah. So I need to know what is 30 divided by 2/3. So you can just whip that on the calculator, or just a reminder, 30 divided by 2/3. So how many groups of 2/3 are in 30? Trick with fractions is to multiply by the reciprocal of the other number. So that would be 30 times 3/2. With fractions, you can look at that as over 1. So there's 2 ways to do it. One, you just multiply. 30 times 3 is what, 90? 1 times 2 is 2. Half of 90 is 45. Okay. Other way is just whip it out on a calculator. So my Google calculator here, I would clear it, take my 30, divide by parentheses because it's a fraction, and then type your 2/3 like that. And there's the 45. So the trick on a calculator is, unless you have one of those fancy fraction button calculators, you got to put the fraction in parentheses to do it. And a spreadsheet would have done that no problem too. So on a spreadsheet, I could have just typed equals 30 divide parentheses for the denominator, 2/3 for the fraction, and it should still give me 45.
I got that, but I just kind of estimated 166.
Yeah, and you'll get about the right answer. Yeah, so that was good. So Robert noted that it's, 2/3 is about 0.66. So what if you take 45 divided by 0.66? Then, did I do that right?
No.
No. It was, 30. Yeah, that was the answer, right? Oops. 30 divided by 0.66. Then I get, it's about 45 ribbons. Yeah. So if you round, you just be in the ballpark. So just round the answer comparably. Okay. Next. So good news is we've done a problem like this before, and you will have access to that worksheet. So hopefully you wrote good stuff on that worksheet for 1-4. I'm pretty sure I gave everybody's 1-4 back to them. So we need to calculate let's see, what do they want here? Total cost of driving her own car for a round trip. So what we have to do is, like we did before, we have to factor in a dollar per mile for each one of these. All right, so I'm going to steal this into my spreadsheet. Blank page. Copy. All right, so the way I would do this is just start writing down each one and then start compiling them. This is a really good problem to do in a spreadsheet. I think I demoed this in class with a spreadsheet a couple of times. So that's something you might want to play around with tonight. All right, so we know, let's see, gas is $3.50 and her car gets 22 miles per gallon. So the two of those facts combined are going to give me $1 per mile number there. So I'm going to write that, and there's different ways to do this. So I have $3.50 per gallon. I need to get rid of gallons. So this one I'm going to write upside down. I'm going to write it as gallons per mile. And it's 1 gallon for every 22 miles. So that just tells me that I have to divide the 22 into the 350 to get a dollars per mile charge there. Okay. So one important number to me is whatever 350 over 22 is, because that's dollars per mile. All right, so next one is this one right here. So again, I need $1 per mile out of that, and that one's pretty straightforward. It's just 2,000 over 21600. Next one, that's just going to be $40 over 3,000 miles. And then next one for tires, that's $920 over 50,000 miles. And the last one is, and I got to use all of these to get the right answer, $328 over 1,500 miles. All right, what do I do with these things next? Once I calculate all those numbers. Well, yeah, I'm going to divide them out, right? Then what? Add them all up. Yeah, so you just got to add up all these numbers here. Calculate them out, add them up. That's one reason I said a spreadsheet's a good way to do this, because you just type each of these into a cell, and at the bottom you just say, sum those up for me, please. Right? it's no big deal if you don't, it's just a lot more writing, because you have to write down the decimal at each point. And some of these are kind of like weird decimals.
And then
Like-
at the end,
So once I do that, so I add all these things up, right, plus, and I get some total dollars per mile cost. And then I say, all right, she's got to do, the length of the trip is 193, that's one way. So what happens after I add all those suckers up? So I have a final dollars per mile figure. I'm going to multiply that by 2 times the 193. And that'll give me her total cost for that. Yeah. So we are out of time for fun with math, but if anyone wants to stick around for a minute, I'll type that into a spreadsheet to show it. But you can do that on a regular calculator too. You don't need a spreadsheet for it. But you got to do each of those divisions, then add them all up, and then multiply. All right. So don't stress out about the test. You guys will be great. Get some sleep tonight. That's super important. If your worksheets have gone well, the test will go well. It's going to be fine.
the sleep part is fine.
The sleep part, it's important to sleep before a test. You're going to be up for 2 in the morning for what? Oh, you got to work. Oh, shit. Okay,
That's
well,
why I look like I'm tired all
you're
the time.
tired all the time. Yeah, okay. What's that? Okay, let's do it. Let's come up with an answer. Okay, so I need to scoot this window over for just a sec so I can see those numbers while I type. Okay, so I need a new spreadsheet. New sheet. Okay, so we've got gas, we've got insurance stuff, we've got maintenance stuff, we have tires, and we have repairs. I think I have everything. That's Bell.
You're gonna be in there to help us like submit it?
Yeah.
That's a part, all right.
Yeah. Okay, so gas, that's equal to 3.5 over 22. Insurance is equal to 2,000 over 21600. All right. Maintenance is equal to 40 over 3123.
So we're dividing.
What's that?
We're dividing.
Well, yeah, so each of these you have to carry out that division before you add them up.
I just added them all up.
You just added them all up?
Like this big, like 3,000.
Show me what you did?
I just added them.
Oh, you can't add them separately. You gotta do the division before you add them.
So when we do
Yeah.
our spreadsheets, are you
Yeah.
actually going into our spreadsheets to check our formulas, or are you just gonna check that the answer's right? 'Cause
I'm gonna go
on
and
a
look at-
calculator.
I'm gonna go and look at the formula.
Cause that.
Yeah. So you can ask me spreadsheet questions during the test.
Okay.
So if you're like, oh man, I forgot which button to push, I'll tell you what button to push. But what I won't tell you is if you should multiply or divide. You tell me what you want to do and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, let's see. So then I got 920 over 50,000. And repairs would be 328 over, oops, I'm gonna take equals. 328 over 1,500. Oops, 1,500. Okay, so those, I'll format those as dollars because they are dollars per mile. Dollars. All right, so I'm just gonna make a note here. These are dollars per mile. Otherwise, when I look at the spreadsheet later, it won't make any sense to me. All right, so I want a total on that now. So for total, I just use that sum formula. And again, if I zoom out for a sec here, in Google Sheets and in Excel, there's this little sigma button in the upper right corner. And if you click that, you can just grab sum from there. And then once you get that, you just highlight them. Ah. Oh, crap.
How long do we have on the test? Like, usually, if we don't finish.
Usually I give people an hour and a half.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so the hour costs
Yeah, usually I give you, yeah, and it's relatively short, so you should be able to do it in an hour, but if you need a little more time, it's no big deal.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm getting, it's about 50 cents per mile when I add all those up. So now I need to, list her miles, or I guess I can go with, let's see, that is total per mile. So the total cost is gonna be equal to this amount times, what was it, 193 miles? Yeah, 193 times 2. And so I get, it's going to cost her about $193.80.
Okay, so you did 50 cents.
So I took that 50 cents per mile times the one-way trip, but then I doubled it because she's got to get home.
Okay, and then that was.
And so I got 193.80 on that one. Issue number 9. Let's start.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm going to see if the homework problem agrees with me. Okay, so I think it's going to cost her 193.8. Submit. Oh, what? I got it wrong. No way.
I'm having trouble with homework sometimes.
Did I mistype a number? Yeah, so whenever you have trouble with the homework, like if you're sure you got it right, message your instructor. So I'm going to write to my instructor right now. Harry, I am sure I am right. I'll send you my spreadsheet. Oh, no, I don't want to be angry about it. Okay, there we go. Send message. Oh, I forgot to send it to my stuff. All right. Okay, I'll get back to you as why I got it wrong. I should be right. Should be right. All right. Have a good day. Get some rest.